Ah, shit. We have hit yet another psychological jackpot. According to Hollywood Unlocked, it says that Jada Cheaves opens up about her roots. I am 25% Mexican. My grandma always took us to Mexico every summer. So, this is my first time hearing about Jada Cheaves. I've never heard of her until today. And isn't it hilarious how the shit talking of black women, all you have to do is make unambiguous women hate you, and then you're going to become more famous? Because I've never heard of this girl until just now. And it's because people apparently were bashing her because she was talking about her Spanish heritage. But one thing I'm noticing though is that here on the internet, ever since the exotical space became a thing, a lot of people are starting to clap back. A lot of women are starting to get more secure and confident in their multiracial identities, in their light skinned identities. And so people are bringing the smoke. Whether they say they're an exotical or not doesn't matter. As long as we are bringing the smoke to the women who try to police our identities, that's all I care about. But let's look at some of these comments. So you got an unambiguous black woman with a light skinned photo saying 25%, that's not enough to even care. Why is it always people who are either unambiguous or they're insecure in their mixed race identities? Those are the main ones. Those are the only ones who police who's mixed race, who's biracial, who doesn't count as biracial. And it's like, there's more than one way to be mixed. Being mixed is not a competition. It's not like, oh, if you're half white, you are more valid in your mixed race identity than someone who is 25% of something. So this girl said 25%, that's not enough to care. And somebody actually clapped back. They said, actually, it is if she's familiar with her family and culture. And this is another thing. Unambiguous black women have been telling us for years to acknowledge our privilege, and so we finally do acknowledge our privilege. Jada Cheaves has access to mixed race privilege, whether you like it or not. I don't care if she's 25%, I don't care if she's 50%, 30%, 40%, doesn't matter. If you're mixed, you're mixed. When you are a mixed race person and you're navigating through society, people in real life, they're not going to ask you, oh, can you take out your DNA test? Exactly what percentage Mexican are you? Which parent and which grandparent came from Mexico? And what city in Mexico are they from? Because you need to prove your Mexican heritage. No, that's not how it works in real life. If you actually are mixed, if you identify as mixed, or if you simply look mixed, even if you're monoracial, people will still give you the mixed race privilege just based on their assumptions. And by the way, can you guys remind me to make a video about that? Because I do have that opinion as well. That's one of my other psychological theories. It's a more controversial one. My controversial theory is that monoracial people who look mixed, you actually are experiencing a form of mixed race privilege when people assume that you're mixed, because they're looking at you walking down the street or whatever and they're speaking to you in Spanish. So that is technically mixed race privilege. I believe that light skin privilege and mixed race privilege have some intersectionality. I believe that texturism privilege and mixed privilege have intersectionality, but that's a whole other video. But this girl says 25%, that's not enough to even care. And it's like, okay, tell me you come from a broken family without telling me you come from a broken family. And this is another thing. A lot of unambiguous black people, they don't realize that they are admitting that they come from these fucked up, dysfunctional families because they're saying, oh, 25%, who cares? Like, you don't care about your grandparents. It's like, if you go to the black community, half the black community is raised by their grandparents, according to their own talking points. Because they've said that their dads abandoned them. They say that their moms are abandon them and go to the club and like leave them at their grandparents' house and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, you guys in the unambiguous community, a lot of you guys are raised by your grandparents. A lot of you guys care about your grandparent, but now suddenly you don't care about this girl's grandparent because she's Mexican. So do you see how she's actually exposing her racism against Mexican people? And this is something that my channel will always call out. I'm always going to call out the racism that some black people have against non-black people. So she's basically saying, we don't give a fuck about your Mexican grandma. We don't give a fuck about Mexicans. Fuck the Mexican community. Fuck the Hispanics. We don't care about the Latinos. So 25%, that's not enough to care. Maybe if there was a Mexican woman who was the mother of a woman that was like 50% black, then I'd care. But because she's just your grandma, like, fuck your Mexican grandma. Do you hear like the undertones of racism, basically? We don't care about your grandparent because she's not black. We don't care about her because she's Mexican. She's irrelevant. We care about black grandmas, though. We care about Big Mama and them. We care about Mima and them, but we don't care about your Mexican abuela. Fuck the Mexican abuela. So do you see how there's like this hierarchy thinking, this black supremacy? So it's like if your grandma is black, they want you to respect her. And then they say that, the black community is very matriarchal. A lot of the black women are running these black families. But then if your family happens to be matriarchal and run by a Mexican woman, now suddenly that's a problem. And she's like, oh, that's not enough to care. So she's basically implying that the personhood of this Mexican woman is irrelevant. And another thing I've noticed is that for the 25 percenters, like if you are 25% other and then 75% black, sometimes you'll also have 50-50 black, white, biracials who are maybe threatened by you because they fear being replaced. So this is another thing too, like if you're a 25-75 mix, you actually don't fit the normal stereotype of what it is to be mixed race, because a lot of people, they think that being mixed is only like 50% black and 50% white. Obviously, anybody who's actually multicultural knows that that's not true. But for the monocultural people, they don't really understand that. And so they feel like, how dare you look black and be mixed? How dare you be mixed race and not fit my internalized stereotype of what it means to be mixed? How dare you not be light-skinned and then be mixed and identify with your other culture? So sometimes you'll also get these insecure mixed race people, and they're actually jealous of your confidence in your identity. So they're like, how dare you be darker than me and be confident in your identity? How dare you look blacker than me and be more successful, more confident in your mixed race identity? How dare you do that? How dare you access more privileges than me, yet you're blacker than me? Like, that's another one that a lot of people won't admit. It's like they get mad because the person, maybe they're not white passing. Like in Jada's case, she's not white passing. Maybe she doesn't fit certain people's stereotype of what it is to be mixed. And so now they're trying to invalidate her as if being mixed exists on a hierarchy. We all know on this channel that hierarchy thinking, not only is it detrimental, but real life doesn't actually exist in hierarchies. You don't have to be a white passing person in order to benefit from mixed race privilege. You don't have to be even 50% white in order to benefit from mixed race privilege. And I have plenty of proof of that on this channel. We study that all the time, especially with Afro-Latinas. A lot of Afro-Latinas are not biracial. A lot of Afro-Latinas are triracial. So that's like black ancestry, white ancestry, and some sort of indigenous or native ancestry. So Afro-Latinas in general tend to break a lot of the mixed race stereotypes, and the only people who don't accept Afro-Latinas as mixed are usually people who are not, maybe they're not part Latina themselves, or they haven't been exposed to the Afro-Latin community, and so they don't understand your identity. But the interesting thing about Jada Cheaves is that I believe she's African American as well. So not only is she multi-racial and multicultural, but she is also multi-ethnic. And so sometimes you'll actually come across mixed people who are just Black American and white American. So they're both American. Both parents are American. Both parents are from the United States. Maybe they don't have any immigration in their family. But Jada's mix is actually very unique because she's multiracial, multicultural, and multi-ethnic. And then, she got to travel. She said that she grew up going to Mexico. So isn't it funny how you're supposed to care about Black women and you're supposed to care about their identities, but then they don't care about yours as a mixed woman. They don't care about your identity as a light-skinned woman. In fact, they say that your grandma is basically worthless. Like, that's not enough to care. Like 25% of who you are, oh, okay, we don't care, because she's Mexican, basically. But we care about our own unambiguous Black grandmas. And, in the Black community, they have a high reverence for Mother's Day as opposed to Father's Day. The Black community is actually very matriarchal, so they have lots of respect for Black women who are grandmas, but they can't show the same respect to Mexican women. But this girl says, actually it is if she's familiar with her family and her culture. So saying that she is relevant. The Mexican woman in her family is valid and she is relevant. But my response to this is, even if Jada was not familiar with her family or her culture, that still doesn't negate her identity, because if you're telling people that they have to know their non-Black family members in order to identify as mixed, that would mean that any mixed person who has been adopted, suddenly they must not be mixed then, because they were adopted. They don't know their family. They don't know the white person in their family. They don't know the black person in their family. So that invalidates their identity. No, your DNA, you can't deny someone's DNA. You can't deny who someone's family is, whether the person knows them or not. So I've noticed that's another inconsistency in monoracial communities. They'll try to convince mixed people, if you don't know enough about the white culture or, whatever your non-black side is, then suddenly that invalidates you. That it actually doesn't, because you're actually perpetuating stereotypes. What you're saying is, if you don't meet enough of the Latino stereotype, then you are not Latino. If you don't speak fluent Spanish, if you didn't have somebody who just came over on a boat, or they just crossed a fence or hopped a fence to get into the United States, then you're not Latino. And it's like, do you hear the racism in those types of comments? Do you hear the stereotyping of Latinos in those comments? So that's another hypocrisy from the monoracial communities. And this is why mixed people need their own communities. This is why multicultural and multi-ethnic people need their own spaces, because a monoracial or a monocultural person, they may not understand all of the nuances that come from your background as a multiracial person. But we've got another person who actually came to Jada's defense and clapped back. She says, I know how close I am with my maternal grandma. I was never close with my dad's mother. So why would you dismiss that side of you? People are literally raised with their grandmothers as second mothers. Exactly. And that's what a lot of other people don't understand. That's why I said they're actually exposing the fact that they came from a dysfunctional family, because they're saying grandmas don't matter. And it's like, well, no, just because your grandma didn't matter, just because you didn't have any family members that cared about you, that's not the case for Jada. Jada has a loving Mexican woman who really influenced her life. And so if she wants to pay respect to the Mexican culture, she has every right to do so. Anybody that tries to say that you can't pay respect to the Mexican people, they're actually racist. Anybody who tries to discount you and say, oh, you're trying to be Asian, or that doesn't matter, or you're trying to be Latino, no, they're actually racist against those groups of people. Because why would you be mad that somebody is showing honor to Mexican people? Like, seriously, what kind of person would be mad at that? Only a racist person, right? Because think about if a 75% white person shows respect to their black heritage. Meghan Markle. The people who discounted Meghan Markle and didn't want her to show respect to her black heritage, you called those people racist. So why would it be any different if you're discounting someone for being Mexican? Also, it's hilarious because the same women that will talk shit and say that your Mexican ancestry doesn't matter, those same women will try to divest and get the attention of Mexican men in real life. They'll try to get hit on by Hispanic men. They will brag about how their boyfriend is Hispanic. They'll brag about how their boyfriend is like half Mexican or something. Meanwhile, when you talk about a Mexican woman, suddenly they don't give a fuck. Now we've got another person defending Jada. She says, yeah, but if she was raised with her grandma and clearly was exposed to her grandma's culture, of course she gon' care. Yeah, it's like, of course people care about their family members. So just because your family is messed up and like you don't care about any of your family members, that's not the case for Jada. She clearly has a good, loving relationship with her grandma, and her grandma happens to be Mexican. I don't see anything wrong with that. But what they want to do is, when you're mixed and pretty, a lot of unambiguous women, they're gonna fight to keep you in the unambiguous black community, and that's because you're beautiful. If you take out all the 75%ers, if you take out the Nicki Minaj phenotypes, take out the Rihannas, take out the Jadas, you take out all the Afro-Latinas, if you take out all of those different types of beauty from the black community, they have nothing left. A lot of these women, they don't think that unambiguous women are beautiful. They only think that black women are beautiful if she benefits from colorism, texturism, or featureism, or if she's mixed race. And so that's why unambiguous women, they'll fight to keep you identifying with them. It's because they need you. They need you to be their representation. They need you to represent their beauty. So that's who they fight over the most. I don't see them fighting for the mixed women they think are ugly. I don't see them fighting for those women to identify as black. In fact, they will make fun of those women and make fun of how ugly they are. And then they'll say, no, she's not black, or like, her non-black features are making her ugly, like they did with Hazel E. They did that with Tiny. They did that with Lotto, the rapper. So I don't see them fighting to make those three women only identify as unambiguous. No, they fight for the women that they think are the prettiest to identify as being black. And in their eyes, a lot of the 75% women are extremely pretty to them, because think about it. If you think that black is beautiful and you have a woman who's 75% black, wouldn't she automatically be beautiful then? So you can no longer argue, you can't argue against Jada Cheaves' beauty and then say that you're pro-black woman. So that's part of the reason why they fight to keep women like Jada identifying as unambiguous, because they think that the black-leaning mixed women, I noticed that they tend to think those women are like the most beautiful. That's what I've noticed. The pro-black women are like this. The rest of society or non-black people, they may not be like this, but I have noticed a pattern where a lot of the pro-black women, they're actually pro-black-leaning mixed woman. That is their standard of beauty. Their standard is Beyonce, Rihanna. So kind of like these black-leaning biracials, these black-leaning multiracials, that is their standard of beauty in the black community. That's a huge standard of beauty for them. And especially if the woman is dark-skinned as well, or if she like has some brown in her skin or something like that, oh yeah, they're definitely going to fight the hardest for those women to only identify as unambiguous, because that's their beauty standard. And so when a woman like Jada talks about her mixed race ancestry, black women are going to get mad because it reminds them that Jada is different than them. And they don't want to be reminded of that, because they want to be able to live vicariously through Jada's beauty. And so if Jada says, hey, you know, I'm Mexican and I went to Mexico every summer, that kills their fantasy. Remember how I talk about limerence? So I actually believe that a lot of unambiguous women, they have this beauty limerence of mixed race women, you know, the women who benefit from isms, the women who have certain features or hair textures, the multiracials, kind of the black-leaning biracials. Doesn't matter what kind of mix it is. But they do have this beauty limerence over these women, so that's why they fight tooth and nail to make sure that they only identify with blackness. So that's a part of why a lot of people, they got mad when Beyonce's hair was real. Remember how they were saying that Beyonce was wearing $1 million lace front wig? And then they were trying to say that if that is her real hair, it got loosened because she has blonde highlights. So black women, they're very desperate to identify with the beauty of Beyonce. You know, they're very desperate to identify with the beauty of women like Jada, or kind of like these 60% black women, kind of 70% black women. So they will fight tooth and nail for those women to only be considered black, because they want to hide behind your beauty. They're too scared to represent themselves. They don't want Lupita Nyong'o to represent them. They don't want Ari Lennox to represent them. They don't think those women are pretty enough. And so instead, they would rather pay attention to the Ice Spices, or the, you know, because Ice Spice is also, she has a triracial type of background as well. She's Dominican. She's another Afro-Latina. So they fight really hard to have these triracial women be their representation. Think about Beyonce. She's also triracial. She's Creole. A lot of Creoles have like, I think about 3 races on their DNA test. They have like some native or indigenous type of ancestry, some European ancestry, and African ancestry. So a lot of women in the unambiguous community, they want to be able to clout chase off of this multiracial, multi-ethnic, triracial beauty that women like Jada have, or women like Beyonce. But this comment says that's literally a grandparent. So that means she would deny her maternal grandmother? Y'all so weird. Exactly. They don't care about the Mexican community. They don't care about the white community. They don't care about any other community unless it's benefiting them. So yes, they do want you to deny your mixed race heritage. They want you to hate your ancestors as much as they hate their ancestors. So it's actually a form of projection. A lot of unambiguous black women hate their own fathers, hate their own grandparents. You know, they hate their own family line that they come from. And so they're shocked when they see a woman like Jada who does not hate her grandma. You know, they're shocked when they see a woman who comes from a functional family. A lot of people think that mixed people talk about their family members because they're non-black, but that's not always the case. Like some people, they actually love their parents. You know, some people actually love their grandparents or whatever, or they have a good relationship with them. But people who come from dysfunctional black families, they don't know what that's like. And so that's why they don't understand it. They think that you're being like a white supremacist or a Latina supremacist by even bringing up that community. And have you noticed that too? So you're allowed to be mixed, but you're not allowed to talk about being mixed. You're allowed to be light-skinned, but you're not allowed to talk about being light-skinned. You're allowed to be pretty, but you're not allowed to talk about being pretty. So do you see how desperate they are to control your self-perception? Why do they want to control the voices of MLS people? Oh, that's right. It's because they put you on a pedestal. You are supposed to be their representation. If you are a privileged black person, so if you have mixed race privilege, light skin privilege, any sort of privilege, hair texture privilege, then you are automatically put on a pedestal. You are put on the stage, and you are seen as the civil rights representative for the unambiguous community. And they view you as their representation because they feel like you, as a privileged person, so like in Jada's case, as an Afro-Latina, they feel like Jada can get into rooms that they can't get into. They feel like Jada could have access to opportunities that they can't have access to. And so that's why they always put the privileged black people or black adjacent people on this pedestal, and then they try to like ride your coattails. They try to give you the responsibility of only representing blackness or only speaking out for blackness, so you're not even allowed to mention any other heritage because they view that as you betraying them, because they're like, how dare you not be a social justice warrior for the unambiguous community. And by the way, their definition of social justice is denying your own family members, denying your own heritage, and basically not utilizing any of your privileges. But this person clapped back as well. She says, you have 4 limbs, each is 25%. Now remove one. That's how asinine that thought process is. I'm so happy to see more people speaking out for mixed race people, especially the 25% mix, because a lot of people don't talk about that. And another hypocrisy with the 25%ers is, have you ever noticed how you could be 75% white and 25% black? People have no problem calling you biracial. Logic, the rapper, Meghan Markle is rumored to be less than 50% black. I don't see people saying, oh no, she's only white. I don't see people arguing and saying that. Halsey is another one I can think of. Nicole Richie is another one I can think of. So all these people who have maybe 60% white, or basically they're over 50% white, I don't see people trying to push them only into whiteness. But suddenly, if you have 60% blackness, 70% blackness, then suddenly you've got people arguing and saying, oh no, you need to only identify as black. But guess what? Other people can't control how Jada identifies. Other people cannot control your identity. They don't have the power to control how you navigate through society. Not to mention the fact that you don't have to be a 50-50 biracial person in order to experience mixed race privilege. The fact that Jada got exposed to another country, and the fact that she had the access and the means and the cultural experiences to go to Mexico, do you know how many Mexican Americans there are right now who have never been to Mexico? There are millions of Latinos who have never been to their home countries, the countries that their grandparents are from or their great-grandparents are from. So the fact that Jada had access to that level of multiculturalism as a child, that is absolutely a form of mixed race privilege. Think about all the biracials who are 50% black, 50% white. They've never been to Europe. They've never been to Ireland. And so that's another hypocrisy. Why is it that if somebody is Latino, suddenly, oh, you need to go to Mexico. You need to have been to Mexico at least 5 times, or you need to have gone to Colombia 5 times. You need to have gone to Puerto Rico 5 times in order to prove you're Latino. No, that's actually racist, and that's a stereotype. There are plenty of Latinos who have been in the United States for hundreds of years. Every Latino is not a walking stereotype speaking Spanish and doing landscaping. But the fact that Jada has been able to travel back and forth across countries, and she's been exposed to a different language, a different culture, a different climate, different people, that is absolutely mixed race privilege. That's multicultural privilege. And so guess what? Who cares about the actual percent? The only people who care about the whole 25%, 50%, 60%, the only people who care about that are actual hierarchy thinkers. Those are the people who have a standard where it's like, okay, mixed race is only 50% one thing and 50% the other thing. Those are the only people who care about that. Other people who want a full mixed race community, they don't care how black or non-black your mix is. Like, if you go to the mixed race Reddit, they have mixed race people of all races, not just black. But you'll see that they have thousands of people on there who are 25%, they're 35%, maybe they're 33, 33, 33. They have 3 different racial backgrounds. So there are plenty of different ways to be mixed. There is not just one monolithic way to be mixed race. So a lot of people who are ignorant and monocultural, they think that being mixed is a monolith. So they think that it's only 50% one thing and 50% the other. So that's why they will try to place you on a hierarchy and say things like, oh, well, you're just a light skinned black woman, or you just look like a light skinned black woman. You're not as valid as a person that's 50% white. That's hierarchy thinking, and that's actually a form of non black supremacy. So they're basically ranking mixed people based on how much non-black ancestry they have, and they're trying to say that whoever has the most non-black ancestry, that person is the most valid. But this person responded, she said, "You don't care about your grandparents? Damn." Exactly. They don't care about their grandparents unless they're black. So if you have like a white grandparent, they don't give a fuck because they don't actually like white people. A lot of them just want to use white people, or they want to compete with white or non-black people. So they don't like you showing any honor towards any ancestry that is non-black. This person says her granny is Mexican. What do you mean? She is literally immersed into the culture. Y'all wild. So just disregard that her granny is a person and active in her life? Exactly. They want her to disregard it because they need Jada to be their representation for unambiguous black women. They don't want Ari Lennox. They don't want the Sexy Reds. They don't want Lupita Nyong'o. They don't want those types of women. They want Jada. Have you ever noticed that? The only people that unambiguous women fight over the most are the women that benefit from an ism. They're benefiting from either colorism, texturism, or featureism, or they are the mixed race women. They're the multiracial women like Beyonce because they feel like we make their community look good. Okay, so that proves that all the beauty in blackness is found in the Exoticals, according to their own talking points. If that's not internalized self-hatred, I don't know what is. This person says, how could you not care if you go there every summer? Be for real, girl. Exactly. It's complete hypocrisy. Unambiguous women want to be able to control your self-perception as a mixed race person. They want to be able to control how you view yourself. They want to control how you view your skin tone. They want to control how you perceive your own hair texture. But the bottom line is, other people don't get to tell you how to navigate through society. Other people can't actually tell you your identity. You're the only one who has lived in your body your whole life. You're the only one with all of your experiences and your memories and your traumas and your privileges. So all you have to do is ask yourself, what are my privileges? If you're getting mixed race privilege, it's because you obviously look mixed. If you're getting privilege from your color, hair texture, or facial features, it's because you're benefiting from those things. So nobody else can argue. Just because one person has an opinion that is contrary to that, one person's opinion doesn't cancel out decades worth of experiences. They can't cancel out a lifetime worth of Jada's experiences that she has had with the Mexican community or with that blood running through her veins. It's so hilarious because I see a lot of black women talking about how they have the Eve gene. So you're talking about your genetics freely. You're talking about the Eve gene. You're talking about how you've got melanin in your body. You know, you've got melanin in your system. But as soon as somebody talks about having Latin roots, then suddenly it's a problem. So you're allowed to use genetic superiority or to praise your own genetics as a black woman, but Jada is not allowed to praise her own genetics as a mixed woman? Do you see the hypocrisy? Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.